Spook,
Yes,
what are you reading?
it's a Stephen King novel, The Dead Zone.
The Dead Zone. What's that about?
I think it's about Collingwood's last quarter.
Welcome to the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And I'm Dead Zone Spook.
Spook, so we lost to Geelong after a scintillating third quarter, which had everyone
On their feet of the tips of their nose.
orgasmic.
Yes, and that too.
So how'd you feel about the game?
It's a tale of two cities, really. I had a brief discussion about this on the couch. You should have been there. It's because it's early in the season. It's glass. I'm glass half full. Like if we were doing this on Saturday night, I would have been ropeable beyond belief. I was a bit angry.
What if we're doing it in the last Saturday in September?
No, that's not likely.
It's likely.
But I think in the cold light of the next day, and on the back of some of the stuff McRae said in his press conference, I'm almost ready to invest in that learning thing. So in that respect, I'm forgiving. However, I'm not forgiving of the fact that you surrendered such a large lead. But there are probably acceptable circumstances that aren't acceptable.
Okay, so I just look at it from, in terms of a loss, I'm glad it happened because just wake up, you're not fucking that good.
Well,
you
there's
need,
that.
and you need to learn, because this has happened in every game we've played this year, we've given up momentum at some point. It's fortunate St Kilda was shit when we played them, and Adelaide is shit. Geelong isn't entirely shit, so they were able to overrun us.
Fly did mention. Did you see the press conference? I didn't see the press. I read the snippets, but he did allude to that about the consistently statistics wise dropping off in the last quarter, and it's something that he said that they have to address, which is fair enough.
And what worries me is that when these momentum shifts have happened, Collingwood just don't touch the ball at all. It's seriously like we're not out there anymore, and the other team. I mean, we used to criticise Nathan Buckley occasionally for the counter-attack goals where they'd just be going, the opposition would get possession of the ball and they'd run forward and there'd be no one. And they'd kick these easy goals. And that's actually happening now. The amount of times the opposition, not just Geelong, Kilda and Adelaide did it too, where they went forward and they've got the whole forward 50 to themselves. It's like everyone's been sucked up too high and the opposition's got an easy goals. So that to me is something they really need to fix. If we're going to criticise Buckley when we criticise McRae, understandably, it's only his third to fifth game if you count the practice games.
Well, I think that's it. I think the issue is when and then we saw it in the St Kilda game, when the pressure intensifies, they do fall apart. And I don't know whether Chris got banked on that or whether it just happened that way that potentially we had such a scintillating third quarter that we just completely ran out of legs as a result of it.
Well, it could be that, or it could be an attitude thing where they thought, shit, how good are we? Which is, again, it's good that they lost then if that's the case. I don't know.
It's a humbling experience.
It's actually interesting that you can have that sort of great third quarter without actually... Elliott was pretty good. Side bottom was good. Adams is good. But for me, there was no really brilliant best on ground for Collingwood. And that last quarter, there was a lot of players who... I don't want to say capitulated, but they weren't great. A lot of the kids weren't great. They had very quiet ones. Reece McInnes, really impressive debut.
Yep, great.
Quainer started really well, but faded as the game went on. Pendlebury, he's not a young player, but Pendlebury's first half I thought was great. Second half was diabolical. Darcy Moore should have went and sang the song with the Geelong team. He was that bad.
That was a shocker.
This is always my issue with Moore as a defender. It's like, okay, he's a great interceptor and all that, but just as a pure defender, he's not a great defender.
I'll disagree a little bit with that.
Of course you are.
But I think he gets caught out a fair bit when he's up against the big bodies.
I'll tell you my problem with Moore is he falls so far off his opponent. That first goal where I think Dangerfield marked and then passed it to, was it Cameron? And if you saw Moore in the background, and this appalled me, in the background, he wasn't just miles off, he was just casually walking back to defence. Or to the full back line. You know who he reminded me? He reminded me of fucking Eckhart in Batman just before he gets shot by the Joker. Where they go to this wide shot and you just see in the background Eckhart's just walking casually. All this other shit's happening, until the Joker goes, Eckhart, think about the future. Like, turns around. That was more. He was just walking with no interest in anything. And meanwhile, his opponent's running off him and getting him up. if you're going to be a fucking defender, your first priority is to actually defend. Now, if you want to be this rebounding defender, then McRae has to use you the way Essendon used Dustin Fletcher and Alistair Clarkson used Gibson, is then put him on the worst forward and then just get him to drop off and provide that intercept.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought right from the outset he was off. It looked, I think his first chase, he just looked a couple of yards slow. I don't know whether I think side bottom had, and I don't want to make an excuse, he had gastro leading into that, which caused his cramps. You just wonder whether something else may have impacted more. That was uncharacteristically bad.
Yeah.
I think that entire performance. Like, normally he would redeem himself, but he just was terrible.
What did you think of Grundy?
Was he playing?
Oh, he had a decent third quarter when he fell back to just grabbing it out of the ruck and kicking it.
I don't know. It's that same old thing though. I think you judge him a lot harsher because of the pay thing. I mean, we could be talking about this every week. I think no matter what you do, you look at him and think that should be better. I should be seeing better.
I saw him drop back and he punched balls that he should have tried to mark. And again, that's been my criticism. He doesn't play as a ruckman. He plays as a ruck rover. He's a great ruck rover. I think he'd be a great ruckman. So that's my issue. It's like, well, look, just bring that beg in, and ruck him.
I did pass comment at the end of the game, and again, that's the benefit of hindsight, but this would have been one of those classic games in the last quarter when you had to drop a tall back that is probably capable of either marking or bringing the ball to the ground in front of him. The Cox would have been perfect in that scenario, but you wouldn't have picked him on the full knowledge of you knew what was coming. But I think when that option was there, you can at least rely on him to have a crack in defence. He's done it a number of times and proven adequate at it.
Oh, look, I even think they should have just dropped Mychek back.
Yeah, Mio was the obvious one as well.
Or even just swap
the fucking
Mychek
ball's not going up the other end. What's he doing? He's up there scratching his nuts. Get him down there and at least try something. He switched Cameron back down there.
Yeah.
And Cameron was effective. But it's not going up the other end. He's not doing anything. Throw him down there as an extra loose man. Yeah. I mean, at that point, you should be trying to protect that lead, but I don't know what the...
And can I point something out? And I'm going to criticise Elliot, who was probably one of our best, because he got the one shot in...
Oh, that was terrible.
In the final quarter. And it's like, you know what, Collingwood players, if you're fucking pretty much straight in front of the goals, then walk in straight and kick. Not these little snaps. Fucking Mychek tried a banana kick from the slightest angle.
Is that the one that's still on its way in orbit?
Yep. And then the others tried these little snaps. I mean, Henry had that snap, which he was the only one on an angle. Then Ginnivan got the free when he was dumped by Atkins, and he went for the snap. I mean, he got it, but it's like, why are we snapping this?
I reckon everyone's doing it these days because obviously mentally they think it's easy to do, but surely as a technique, that's a harder ball to kick than a drop punt. What you're going to do is drop the ball flat, kick straight. Well, if you're dropping it on an angle, you're hoping to strike the ball first before you've already mentally calculated the swing and the angle of it. It just seems too complex to do.
Well,
Elliot, how often does he ever try those?
No, yeah, I know.
Well, and it's a fucking clutch shot.
There's a logic to kicking that snap around the corner around the boundary, and there needs to be a natural hook to it. When you're pretty much straight in front, I don't understand it. It's just really stupid, and to me, it's actually lazy, because if you're saying, I'm going to do this instead of going for just a typical straight kick, it's like you're saying, I'm just not good enough to trust in my skills, so I'm going to snap this. Because I think that's easier to do. And it's fucking weak. It's piss weak. I don't want to blame accuracy for the loss, because we were talking about this earlier. Maybe if we're accurate, then Geelong would have kept up, or they would have fired up, and they wouldn't have let us get ahead. But when you need people to be nailing shots, it's just fucking disheartening when you say, snap, snap, snap.
And especially when you have those patches of dominance, like in the first quarter. Those misses were... You think at the time, surely they're going to come back and bite.
Well, the modern game's about momentum. So you're going to occupy this time, and then the opposition are going to get their shot at it, because that's just the way the modern game goes. So you have these pockets of momentum. When you have your momentum, you really need to fucking capitalise. You don't need to be screwing around with party tricks when party tricks are not required. I mean, if I was McRae as coach, and I did ask Collingwood if I could coach, and they declined, but if I was coach... I know. If I was coach, I would just be saying, I don't want to see that shit. I'm fine for you to do it if you're on somewhat of an angle, but if you're relatively straight in front, then just walk in and kick a straight fucking ball. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yep.
How about that thug, Jordan De Goey?
I can concede a little bit that the tackle was ugly at the end, but I think Dangerfield contributes a little bit to this. He does tend to sort of try and throw himself out, which contributes, I reckon, to the momentum. If you look back at that Burgoyne footage from 2020, and no doubt it's doing the rounds by now, it's almost textbook identical in terms of he gets hit, he flings as much as he gets flung. And I think that carries across and he hits the deck. Now, it's been condemned and it's horrible, and it's another reason why DeGoey should never have been allowed to leave America or something. So Dangerfield got up completely unaffected by it, literally bounced up like a jack-in-the-box and played on.
I'll say two things to this. Pendlebury criticised Dangerfield, or to the umpire, said he's staging, when Dangerfield was held and somehow propelled himself forward. So I'm not sure how he flung himself, and Pendlebury said to the umpire, you should be getting in for staging there. Geelong players have a record of staging.
Joel Selwood.
There you go. The other thing too is, I don't give a fuck about this sling rule. You have players tackling one another who are like, 80, 90 kilos, and the opponent, the person getting tackled, is resisting it. So, sometimes you're going to have to put some force into it, and maybe that's going to result in a swing. I fucking hate these rules that they have now where they're saying, you know what? You can't tackle. That's all it comes down to.
But you break that thing down. I mean, he's running through at a reasonable pace, something. He's a big bloke.
He's 80, 90 kilos.
The goalie's got two options here. I either tackle him and roll him, or I let him fucking go up the other end and kick a goal.
Yeah.
So what is it that they're trying to take out of the game?
But that's what I'm saying. You're actually telling players your actual recourse, which is a tackle, is no longer a recourse unless you don't sling him. And the reality is sometimes just with angles and trying to stop the player and getting, stop his motion, you are going to be slinging them. It's just face fucking reality. You have 90 kilogram players running at full tilt, making split nanosecond decisions. Sometimes players might get hurt. It's not actually malicious. It's just part of the game, So fucking accept it. The goalie gets suspended for 1 week where, Dangerfield's not concussed, is he? He jumped up, he played, he finished the game.
Yep, that's right.
And somehow Jordan De Goey is suspended for a week. And let's just go quickly. Should Collingwood have challenged that?
Fucking oath they should have.
Okay, that's all we need to say.
And that shits me that they took the weak, simple option out. I was joking, half joking to you. You probably think the outcome of this would be that there'll be a quiet word that, De Goey was injured, he was going to miss the week anyway, so, what's the difference? But you need to make a fucking stand, Collingwood. You need to be, instead of copping this shit endlessly and being the butt of their stuff, fucking take them on. What does it cost? There's no impact. Big deal. We've got all this fucking money that we keep talking about we're going to spend, and the first opportunity you get, we'll accept it. You'll accept it's fine. Even if you lose, at least you've got to be seen to be taken on. It's the optics of these things. You got every fucking Collingwood supporter up in arms about we always get fucking shafted when everybody else gets off. Now, I mean, that's probably a gross overgeneralisation, but there is a sense that that's the case. And the club needs to stand up and take this stuff on. If anything, just to say, we don't believe in it. The fact that you've just said he'll accept it and move on, you just look meek.
If I was Collingwood president and I did ask to take that position...
Is there any roles there you didn't ask for?
No. No, it's just those two, the coach and the president. I could have done both.
You could have done that and then sung a one-man band.
Well, Eddie McGuy's doing it for years. But...
Do better.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. If you look at that offence, if you go back to Maynard with the spoil on Lloyd for GWS, and the attitude was, Lloyd went down, he got concussed or whatever, and when that happens, that's it, you're fucked.
Or what about Kruger colliding and knocking himself out and getting rubbed out?
But I was just going to say, with Dangerfield...
Wouldn't you contest that?
Yeah, I would have contested that. But with Dangerfield, none of it happened. He got up, he played. If I was Collingwood, if I was president, as I should have been, but if I was president, I would have said, we're going to accept that decision as long as that's the decision every week, every game for the rest of the year. If we see one where a player is not suspended from a sling tackle, I don't give a fuck if the other player is concussed or not. We are going to kick up such a stink. We're going to rain unholy terror on the fucking AFL because that's going to show a prejudice in that decision. No. And I would have put that out there and said, this is the bar you have fucking set, AFL, and if this is not the bar you're hitting with every one of these incidents, then you are full of shit.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, at least I can console myself that Selwood got a couple of weeks for choking Ginnivan.
Okay, so let's go on to that, because
You telling me I didn't get that right?
No, so I think Ginnivan got a whack from Kane Cornes. Kane Cornes said, to go after real players, respected, as Joel Selwood, and to lose in your 8th game. You only had 6 touches tonight, so clearly he didn't impact the game. Well, he got a goal, you fuckwit, so he had some impact. It was small, but he did something. I'm going to just say this straight up before you get angry. I'm going to take my temper somewhere. Joel Selwood, love him as a player. I think he's fucking brilliant. Even the dropping to his knees doesn't bother me. As Nathan Buckley pointed out, it's in the rules, so fucking exploit it, okay? I think he's the best captain in the league, or one of the best captains. He just hauls Geelong over the line. But he's a fucking sniper, and that shit that he did with Ginnivan, I've seen him do that repeated. Not particularly that action, but I've seen him sort of clip people, and nobody says anything. He collared Ginnivan in a fucking headlock tackle. Okay, I'll accept that. That was just high. And then he held onto him. And you can see he makes a second motion like to tighten his fucking arm, and Ginnivan's face goes red to the point that Darcy Cameron and John Noble run in like, what the fuck are you doing? And then Selwood was like, oh, sorry. And the thing you got to consider here is Ginnivan's falling to his knees. He's only being held up by Selwood's headlock. And the media has said none of this. That weak prick, Kane Cornes, has said nothing. He's bagged Ginnivan. The rest of the fucking media just, it's such a disgrace that Collingwood fans booed Joel Selwood. Maybe look at why all that shit's happening.
Yep, no, totally agree. And especially with the booing stuff, because we know it can't be racial.
Well, okay, so I'll go on to that, because I had that in my fucking thing. Collingwood is condemned. Collingwood fans, sorry, not Collingwood, the team. Collingwood fans are condemned for booing Joel Selwood. Where was his fucking indignation in round 1 when DeGoey was getting booed every time he got the ball? Yeah. What, so there's a double standard here yet again?
But what about, the fact that obviously all Collingwood supporters are evil because they booed him for being a sniper. I didn't hear any booing at the end when he was being clapped off. Wouldn't you be consistent if you were booing because you hated him or whatever the reason is?
Well, no players ever got booed except for fucking Joel Selwood, apparently. It's fucking ridiculous. One thing I want to point out with Collingwood in the way they played the game is, and this really appalled me, particularly in that last quarter, and we did this under Buckley, so I don't know if it's just habitual and held over from the Buckley era or if this is part of McRae's game plan too. The amount of handballs to players about to get crunched.
But that's pressure. I think, when they're doing that chaos thing and they're really controlling it well and they're confusing the opposition. And at the moment, it is quite impressive to watch them pulling off. But when that counter happens and they're on the back foot, they fuck up really bad.
But there's a few times they had a run on and a handball to someone who was just about to get crunched. And it's just like, it's one of those things where I don't want to be one of these idiots who's in the crowd, not the audience, the crowd's shouting, kick it. Because, you need to kick it actually somewhere. But the amount of times where I thought, yes, maybe just put it in the, kick it, 30 feet in the air, 30 metres in the air and fucking have a bit of hang time and run onto it, rather than go for that extra handball, which puts everyone under pressure and ends up losing the ball. And again, it falls back to that counter-attack where just everyone seems gone. So that is something they need to iron out. I saw McRae talk about, we're going to work out if we can attack for 4 quarters or whatever. It's like, no, you can't, because that's just not fucking realistic. Who ain't the Harlem Globetrotters?
That's it. Are we playing the Generals again this week? I think our game plan might have a good good chance to succeed. Yeah, you can't predict what the opposition's going to do, so that's a bit of a strange one. But at least you can look at this in isolation and use it as a learning opportunity. And I think that's going to happen not only for the playing group, but I think McRae has to use this as a learning opportunity too. He's only 3 games in his career. I think, there's probably a lot of things, if he had his time again in the last quarter, he would have done differently. Subbing the uninjured player on for the bloke who could barely walk might have been one of them. Dropping Miacek down back. Miacek, I think he used to play as a defender. He may have been quite useful in that situation to stand the trend. But I think at the same time, it's also, I think Buckley was a victim of this too, that we've got the system, we trust the system, we should just keep going with the system. Oh fuck, we lost the game. Maybe shake up the system, maybe throw the system out at times where it's clearly not going to work in this particular instance. You've got to think outside the box. And that probably comes with experience.
Oh, well, I haven't coached a game and I could have told you what to do. I think it's more like a chess game where, sometimes you're playing for position, sometimes you're playing to attack, and sometimes you're just luring and, you're playing to set them up.
Rope-a-dope.
Yeah, and I would have thought that going in that last quarter, I don't know what McRae said, so he might have said this, but I would have said to the players, Joel Sol was no. I would have said
Kane Cornes.
Actually, if I was coach, I would have said, look, no one does that to one of our players, so maybe... Anyway...
I want you to go out there and belt the living Kane Cornes out of him.
I would have said to the players, look, they're 5 goals down. You know what that means? They're going to fucking come out really hot. Really, really hot. Let's, for 5 minutes, just play extremely defensive, absorb that pressure, and then they're going to be spent, and it's going to frustrate them, and then we go on the counter-attack. Not let's keep attacking and turn this 5-goal lead into a 10-goal lead from that moment. I would have just said, let's just absorb their pressure for 5 or so minutes, and that'll frustrate them, and then we can go for the attack again. And then when we get a couple of goals, that will totally demolish them. So I don't know what the strategy was going into that last quarter. I think the most galling thing was just how easy it was. Seriously fucking, it was training running around witches' hats. The amount of time they got it out from,
and we fucking just played the flanks.
Yeah,
and it was like you playing those percentages, and that's that safety net thing. Yeah, it was hard. It was a hard watch. It was a hard thing to see it go down like that. Considering how they played in that third quarter, it was extremely disappointing.
The way they went down without a yelp, that's my biggest problem. Is I remember watching it going, we're on 90 points in the third quarter, and they've said we've kicked 100 points twice, this season already, and we only did it like once or whatever last year. And I think, we'll get 100 points easy this game, even if we fucking only have an average quarter. We got 1 point for the game, and that was Elliott's little snap.
Yeah.
It really, the way that all imploded on it, and Geelong just ran over the top, it really was galling. Hopefully it is a teachable moment where McRae can say, yep, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to learn, and this is how we're going to move forward from here, because they have done it in every game. They have sort of given up big chunks of momentum and just been walked over. But
well, it is a youngish developing side, so I mean, you got to concede that this sort of stuff's got to happen. It's never easy to watch, but again, if you're learning from it and you're going to do things differently next time, you've got to just chalk it up as a learning experience.
Just moving away from the game, Kane Cornes tweeted after the loss, so Collingwood FC, who gets the GoPro?
See, the thing with this twat is he is now just almost the world's most effective troll. He doesn't even believe any of the shit that comes out of his mouth. He is just trolling for reaction. And this is the media these days. Unless it's fucking crap that's going to inflame you or scare the living suitcase out of you, it's not worth printing or saying. It's like John Ralph with his incessant need to point out that every one of our players who has an indiscretion should be rubbed out for a period of time.
No, I agree. No, I was going to say, I actually didn't mind Cornes for a while, because at least he never sat on the fence, but this...
Yeah, he's just flat out trolling.
Now, yeah, and this so Collingwood FC, who gets the GoPro, I mean, you suggesting there's a correlation between the GoPro and this loss? Did Chris Scott call in Geelong's charges at 3/4 time and said, you want to watch what Jack Ginnivan did after the St Kilda game with this GoPro? Don't fucking let him do this to you. Is that what he did? Because otherwise it's just irrelevant, and it's just... I think it's petty.
The best thing to do with a trial is just to ignore them, and they'll go away. The more that we get inflamed, the more we talk about him, the more we give him a power base to keep doing this.
Nick Dacos, rising star.
Yes, well deserved. I mean, it was always going to come.
Hawthorn now embroiled in their own racial saga with former champion, premiership player Cyril Riali accusing key members of the club of being racist during his time there, including current president Jeff Kennett.
And the Rip Jeans saga? The Rip Jeans, I mean, how would you recover? It must be hard.
No, I found that interesting because
they've sorry, before you continue. So what are they calling their report? Is it a do better report?
I don't know.
Do even better.
Well, you can
do or do not.
I can guarantee they won't be conducting or commissioning any investigation into their past.
Well, can't they get a bunch of progressives to write a report?
But no, I'm just going to say, I mean, I'm not excusing Collingwood, but it really shows that this shit has been going on for a while, and while the eye fell on Collingwood, there's a lot of clubs that should be held accountable.
No, this only started with us.
No, apparently. Save the grand final.
I can't believe this is going on anywhere else. The media reliably told me it's us. We're the racists.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how the media treat Hawthorn, because not that I think Eddie Maguire's handling of it really, it deserved the ire it commanded, but it'd be interesting to see if they get the condemnation that Collingwood did.
Well, you imagine they will.
You'd think they should.
We'd be opening the paper in the morning and reading about it, wouldn't it? There'll be outrage.
If you're still open
What's Twitter
papers.
saying? Twitter's usually a constructive playground for commenting on this sort of thing. Have they started tearing him apart or calling for his head? Surely the whole of Twitter's up in arms. They like getting angry. Twitter.
Yeah,
it's a good thing in Twitter. It's encouraged to be angry at everything.
I've tweeted about 20 angry things in the last weekend.
Well, see it. It's working.
So we're playing West Coast.
Have we got any players playing West Coast?
No, we're playing against West Coast this week.
What do you think? Because we were such on point before you continue with Cameron last week. What do you think
Jeremy
the chances
Cameron, that is.
of 20 of West Coast players all coming back fresh, reinvigorating, having the game of their season this Saturday? Are we playing Saturday or Sunday?
It's a 4:35, I think, on Saturday. Yeah,
Saturday,
I could be wrong, but
or whenever we're playing. Do you think they'll come out and just have that moment?
Yeah, West Coast is an interesting one because they've been in disarray the whole year with various things going on. You'd think that Josh Kennedy's primed for about 8 goals.
Darling, he's playing, isn't he?
I don't know. I think
Jakovic. I think they're having Jakovic come out. And he's probably good for 12 after being retired for 28,000 years.
I was going to say Peter Simic is probably on.
Yeah.
It'll be good to see how Collingwood respond to this because it was pretty embarrassing. Now, if they've run out of legs, I mean, what does that say for, the rest of the season in round 3 we're running out of legs? Kruger and Roughhead are rough chances to come back or come in.
That'd be good. I mean, I think, look, in all honesty, if the two of them were playing against the Cats, I think that would have been a major difference in defending and going forward. But, it's not to be. So, look, I'm happy if they're both available, they'll slot straight in, and I think that'll be that will seriously bolster us. However, they won't play. They won't come back, will they?
I doubt it. Side bottom went off with a cramps, which is just really weird because
gastro related. I think they were talking about us. We had gastro during the week and cramped up.
I've got to commend Side bottom because I've criticised him for since the 218 prelim, and he looks like a totally new recruit at the moment.
He's a man reborn. If he doesn't get up, he'll be sorely missed.
Yeah, and then you have players like Callum Brown who did well in the VFL.
Well, the VFL had a good win again, didn't they? And some of the form in there is quite encouraging. Ash Johnson, I don't think they'll rush him into the big stage. I think he's got to find his feet at VFL for a while. But there was a couple of who else played well in the VFL apart from
what's his name? Poulter.
Poulter, did he?
I don't know.
I'd have him back in. I like him.
It's where you fit all these players. Look, at the moment, like I was looking at the side, so you have guys like Finlay McRae, Poulter. Poulter was, I thought, of the young guys, the best, most consistently the best last year. McCreary is still not due back for a few weeks, but it's like, where do you fit these guys in? Like, who do you drop? And
well, you're going to drop to go.
Oh, that's right, he's out. But like guys like Callum Brown, that I've said, I'm really interested to see how they go now that they're under a new game plan. As we're seeing, still side bottom revitalised. We're going to see that with the Browns. And the thing with Callum Brown that we always said when he was playing on the Buckley is you got to drop this guy because he's so out of form and it's not helping him playing him at AFL level. Now he's at the AFL level, he's actually doing really well. So he's going to deserve a chance at some point.
No, that's true.
So there's a couple of guys, and Tyler's the other one. But there's
Who's the guy who's been emergency the last couple of weeks?
Tyler Brown?
No. He was emergency.
He was a medical sub.
Yeah. But there was some other guy that was...
Oh, Harrison?
Yeah, 2 weeks through his debut. He must be knocking. Did he play in the VFL?
I got no idea.
No, me either.
I don't pay attention to that.
We don't do any research. I think we've established that.
No. What's your tip against West Coast?
We're playing here against the COVID-ravaged side. I expect us to lose by 5 goals. No, actually, I don't. I think we'll win. We should hopefully win. There's a couple of challenging games coming up after that. They're I think to go into, because everyone was predicting us to be 0-6, to go in at the halfway point 3-1 with a win over West Coast, I think that'd actually be quite good. I think we'll win by 18 points.
Just tell me, did you watch the replay of the game with the commentary and shit?
Did I watch the replay of the game?
Or did you watch the game
This
live?
is a trick question.
Yeah.
I did watch it live.
I don't know if you picked up, but the commentators might have mentioned that Jack Crisp has played every game at Collingwood since he's gotten there.
Has he?
Yeah. I mean, only mentioned it every 4 seconds.
That's good. It's good they're keeping us informed.
I'd say Collingwood by 26 points. I want to see how they're going to bounce back from this. West Coast traditionally matches up pretty well against us, but they have been playing their waffle side for a while. So, we might be playing a really undermanned side.
So all these players that were out over there, they like isolating, which they can't train or anything like that.
As far as I'm aware, but who knows what the rules are
really,
anymore.
You really would think that works to your advantage, surely.
In WA, under Mark McGowan, they've probably been in prison or something.
They've probably been hobbled.
Yeah, well, that would mean that we'd recruit them. Just one last thought about the loss to Geelong.
Do I have to think about this anymore?
Any 2018 Grand Final flashbacks?
No. I mean, at least that capitulation happened in the second quarter. I think that would be worse to be in a position like just before the end of the third quarter. We were 37 points up. To be in that position in a grand final, I would prolapse 12. All my internal colon and intestines and colon, everything would prolapse. I'd be beside myself. I don't think I could go through that because I'd probably even the 2010 grand final. I was just waiting for it to fall over at some point late in the game. No, I couldn't do it at that point. No, so no shades.
Okay. Last thoughts?
Rebound Woods, learn from it and come back fighting and give us the 4 points. What about you?
I'm still available to be coach and president. Mm-hmm. And just finally, we did run the poll: is Kane Cornes a knob? And 100% of people said yes.
That's unanimous in my book. I heard even Kane voted on that one. He was the first one in. You said.
I heard Chad voted on
it. Yeah.
As a South Australian friend said on Facebook, there's not many people who can play 300 games and retire in a game without a friend. Well done, Kane.
Yeah, we're rooting for you. Well, not physically.
I don't care about him. Anyway, that's it from us.
And that's it from us.
See you next week.
Yep.
Later.
Catch.